Leafs talk, JD Bunkis, Sam McKee. Right after the worst stretch of the Leafs season, they now string together three wins. Very, very Leafy stuff. Tonight, the story, unquestionably, John Tavares.
Yeah. Every so often, he gives you a little reminder of what he's got in the tank. And I think it was his 1100th point that he got tonight. Yep. That's a phenomenal career for a guy. That's like, that's rarefied air for any NHLer to get close to 1100 points. And I just thought that he was buzzing from the drop of the puck until the end of the game. I thought he was excellent tonight. And, the first line, I wouldn't necessarily say had it for long stretches of the game. And I think Rielly, him and McMann kind of carried the mail a lot offensively tonight. And I thought it was a really, really, really great game for that second line. So, yeah, it's really nice to see John Tavares still have these moments. He's having a great year offensively. There's still questions with him in terms of, the pace, and there's certain games where he really struggles. But once in a while, bud, he reminds you that he's got that dog in him still, and he was impressive tonight.
Yeah. It should be noted that Tavares now has as many goals as he had all season last year.
Yep.
Like he's
contract year, maybe.
What?
Contract year.
Well, it's just like, I will say this about Tavares. I do feel as though more than any other player, like as much as people get defensive about Nylander or people get defensive about Marner and Matthews play, whatever, like Morgan Rielly, I'm not sure there's been a Leaf that's been like as productive who's ever been picked apart the way that John Tavares has. Like he's always looked at as like what he doesn't do versus what he does do. And I'm really not trying to create a straw man here. Like I don't think that this guy is loved by the market the way that someone with his production normally would be. Some of it's the contract. Some of it's the fact that they've had the playoff losses. Like I get it, but it's just like John Tavares is the model of consistency. Like, I love my Kawhi stat, right? Where it's like, you look down at the box score at the end of a Kawhi night and you're like, he had 28 points and 12 rebounds and 6 assists. Like it's all because it's like on low efficiency. And I kind of feel the same way about Tavares year over year, where it's like, you look at the numbers and you're like, really? Like he's not a super flashy player. He doesn't get the headlines that the other guys get. And then you look down at the stat sheet and it's like, hey, this guy now in his career just passed Sergei Fedorov in goals. This guy now has, 29 goals in 62 games. He's an older player, provides a lot for this team, man.
I think it's funny that like you look down at his stats. It's like, yeah, he's probably going to have a couple less points than games played in every single season that he plays.
Yeah,
like
that's what I mean.
His numbers, like I remember I was going through it, looking at the splits against the teams that he's like played against, because I forget what I was looking at it for, but it's just like, point per game against everybody. It's like he doesn't own any team. Like it's just like every single team he plays against, he's a point per game. And I think, the perception of him, I would say this year, I would say it's probably the best it's been in terms of him having the captaincy removed.
It went up right at the beginning for sure, but then it dipped again and it did its normal thing.
Yeah.
You didn't feel that?
No, listen, we talk about the Leafs every single night. So like, we're definitely had some criticizing nights, but like, in general, I think a lot of people have found a new appreciation for him after that. He's just having the exact same year, the exact same consistency, the exact same guy when his boyhood team stripped the C off his chest to put it on Auston Matthews, and it hasn't affected him in one bit. He hasn't complained one thing ever. Like he's just the most professional hockey robot of all time. Like he really is. Like even the intermission he does with Sean McKenzie, like he could have done any interview he's ever done. Like it could have been like from the start of his career until right this moment. If you put in the audio from any intervention, it would have been the exact same thing. Obviously,
you'd have no idea if he scored, if the team was going well.
Just Robo John. And, there's part of that I think is reflective of the way this team's been over the past few years, like the lack of rah or whatever. But there's something to be said for a guy in this market who's never made any waves ever with any soundbite, just talks to the media, says a million things without saying anything. So I totally agree that we're definitely, myself included, too hard on this guy. But yeah, it was just an awesome Johnny Toronto night tonight. Just fires it in the net a couple times, hammers them. I love the play he makes on the Bobby McMann goal where he like wins it back to the point, and then McMann tips it in. The play he makes on the one that he ends up finishing, that he passes to McCabe. Like he was all over it. And you got to respect him when he was great, and he's the main reason they won the game tonight. It was awesome.
Yeah, I just thought it was like a very complete Tavares game, right?
Yeah.
Like good in the dot, some big draws, some good on the forecheck, the big shot, right? Like a little bit of playmaking, a little bit of hockey smarts, just a really quality John Tavares game. And I got to tell you though,
the only problem with him shooting those ones and then having them go in, this is a cross-sport reference for like my niche Toronto Raptor fans, but remember when James Johnson used to hit a couple early threes in a game? You'd be like, oh boy, here we go. Like Johnny loves to shoot that long distance wrister and long distance clapper that never go in. And now that a couple went in, he's going to be just hammering them for a few games from up there. But it was good, good for him.
For a team that has not been getting enough pucks on net, I'm not going to complain about any shots going towards the net right now. And yeah, you saw it with the McMann tip in where it's like, hey man, good things happen when you go towards the net, you put pucks on net. I got to say, you want one more? This will be our third cross-sport reference.
Yeah, let me have
of the night. Shesterkin is the Le'Veon Bell of the NHL.
Okay. Explain.
Like, do you remember Le'Veon Bell held out for a year with the Steelers and he was like, nah, I'm doing this for the running back market. And then the New York
I remember
Jets
that. I remember that well because I was pretending to be a Steelers fan at that point. And I was like, I'm passionate about this.
And then the Jets signed him and he was just, and like, listen, it was the Jets, but he was just immediately washed. And it was like, oh my God, he's so not worth the money. Shesterkin is tracking to be that for goalies where anytime there's going to be an absolute stud, the teams are going to look at it and go like, sorry, you want how much money?
How much did he sign? Was it 11.6 that he signed for?
Yeah, it's almost $12 million.
Jeez.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
11.5.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure he'll bounce back and be fine next year, whatever. Yeah. But like, talk about a year where it's just a tough sell for goalies. Like Stolar signs a nothing deal and he's a stud. Yeah. Wool signs an RFA deal that even we were like, man, this might be a bit too much for a guy who's injured. Looks like a just sweetheart deal. Yeah. And then you got like Swayman who got paid, just cratered to start the season, couldn't find his game for months. Shesterkin put pen to paper and it was like, yeah. Anyway, I
gotta tell you, that team in general, like we're not doing Rangers talk, bad vibes, bad vibe. Like that team is hoping for Cabo. Like I don't think they don't want to go into the first round against the Caps or the Panthers or whoever they're going to play in the playoff series. They are just not an invested group. And they had a couple go in tonight. Few lucky ones, quite honestly. Like I didn't even think
that body language team though, Like
they didn't. Yeah, they all hate each other. Feels like they hate each other, right? Like they traded the captain. They traded the captain early in the year, and like they scratched Kreider. They traded for Miller, who's like a total grump dog, but like total grump. Yeah, it's just Fox is having an off year. Feels like every guy on their team is having the worst season of their career, and they just are hard to watch. God,
yeah. Shesterkin, fourth cross-sport reference, reminds me of a starting pitcher who gives up, like the defense gives up a bad one. And the starting pitcher shows him up with the glove punch, like a lot of those.
Starts rubbing the ball, like looking around the infield, rubbing the ball a little bit. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Fourth cross-sport reference of the night. So maybe we'll get a fifth one. So yeah, really good Tavares game. And I got to tell you, I thought Nylander was solid too, but you and I privately, and yesterday I made some criticisms about Bobby McMann's game lately, right?
Yeah.
And really, I mean,
rightfully so, bud. It wasn't like they were uncalled for.
Sure. But I was going to say, like, good for him tonight because the thing that we said remains true where it's like goes down the lineup, lose him, bring him up the lineup, notice him again. But the goal, I just love it because it's about the puck battle that he wins first. If we got this, like wins a puck battle in the corner, kicks it back to the point, and then what does he do? Like there's 15 seconds left. He could easily just kind of be dogging it, not really paying too much of attention, like goes right to the net, gets a beautiful tip, scores the goal. And I just thought, like, again, you notice the speed, but he's got that size. I want to see him win those battles. Like he can be an impactful player. And this is what it's going to take come playoff time, man. Like those heady plays, those physical plays, and then the heady plays to go to the net and get a tip. So good for McMann.
Yeah.
I think the second line found something tonight. You're right. It's against a Dog Rangers team that some of it was like hard to parse out when you were watching it over the course of the full hockey game, but love this moment for McMann. Hope it's a bit of a breakout for him. He's obviously has had a good season. I think he's sitting at 19 goals now, 18, 19 goals, somewhere in that range. Like
fantastic value on that contract.
Fantastic value, huge value. That's why he doesn't get caved in when he goes 15 without a goal, because it's like he's already gotten the wins above replacement essentially. But good night for him. Think that line found something, and good for them, because I was really at the point where I'm like, split up Nylander, Tavares. I don't know what to do with McMann. I honestly thought he was trending to scratch territory, buddy.
For sure.
That's really where I was with McMahon's game.
Well, I think there was definitely a sort of we're into scratch territory here now, where it feels like it's going to be a bit of a rotation. And coming into tonight, I think he would have been eligible in the rotation for a game. I think he would have been eligible. And I think Robertson's been better than him recently. I didn't particularly love Robertson's game tonight, but
I totally agree. Yeah.
But Robertson's been better, been more noticeable, been actually kind of aggressive, bit of an energy guy. But hey, how about another cross-sport reference if you want it? We can go 5.
Let's get it. Let's go for 5.
We're in the NCAA March Madness time. I felt like he's a bit of a floor spacer for them, for that line where I saw Borny talking about it a little bit in the middle of the broadcast, just how he backs off the defense with his speed, the one play up the sideboards where he immediately he goes up and everybody has to back off. And then there's just all this room in the middle of the ice for him to find somebody. I think you just kind of got to leave it. You just got to leave these guys together. And it makes your bottom 6 worse, no question. And we can talk about the bottom 6. That third line tonight is just not a good hockey line. I'm sorry. It's just not a good hockey line. It's just not going to work. There's never going to be any chemistry between those 3 guys. It's just not a thing that works. But having McMann here is where you're going to get the most out of him. And he was pretty good tonight. So for me, keep him in this spot and let him space the floor for these guys, because I thought they looked awesome with him there.
Yeah, man. If you just think about it, a couple things that they can do, right? They're a dump and chase team. And so he's a guy that's got speed that can get to the pucks first.
Yeah.
He has the ability to skate with these guys, to skate with Nylander. I've always felt like those two have had a little bit of chemistry when they've been put together.
Yeah.
And he's got a feel around the net. He's clearly got a shot. So when defenses are paying attention in transition to where Tavares is and where Nylander is, McMann has more of an impact. It's not a mystery why this guy gets lost when he's not playing with good players, and then he's good with good players. It's very, very easy to tell why he fits on that line. And so ultimately, I'm still not opposed to the idea of having him play with Tavares or with Nylander and having a split there at some point. We've just seen enough of Nylander and Tavares together where I'm not backing off my no chemistry take just because they have a good night.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'd love to see 3 lines for this team, especially given what you mentioned tonight. But yeah, I thought this was a really good step in the right direction. By the way, this is in the chat. Shima says, who missed Yarncrok? And I got to tell you, couldn't have missed a guy less. Third line was awful. And I'm like, I still don't.
Wouldn't have been better with him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, remember there was that little bit of buzz from Leaf fans on Leafs Twitter of Yarncrok's coming back. It's going to help balance. He's a real true professional. It's so far, it's what's been the Yarncrok moment?
Well, he scored that one power play goal from the middle of the ice. The only pass, but that's it.
Yeah.
So we played that McMann goal, the one at the end of the period. And it's a good chance to give some credit to Jake McCabe again, where that's just a perfectly heighted shot where a guy's going to the front of the net, and it's not hard. It's not it's just a perfect sifted wrister right towards the sweet spot, and he's able to tip it in. And it's another excellent game from McCabe tonight. He ended up with 22-33, 3 assists. He was +1. He was on the ice for that one at the end of the game there. But
I thought it was a perfect pass to Tavares too, right on the rush.
Great
just put
pass.
it right on his tape.
And I'll say 3 hits tonight, 2 block shots in 22-30, 3 assists, like I said, +1. I mean, 2 unbelievably good games from this guy back to back. And I think there was a bit of a dip clearly when he's not playing with Tanev. And I think that's allowed because Tanev's the perfect complement to him, and they just really work well together. And he's playing on his offside and all the different stuff he's asked to do with no Tanev. But when Tanev's in the lineup and these 2 guys are playing together, McCabe is hugely important to this team. He was awesome again tonight.
It's the other thing too. Like I think we might have mentioned this even last night because he's played so well, but just Tanev really does allow him to show off the little bit of offensive chops that he has too, right? Like he plays way more aggressive when he's on his natural side, obviously, but he's got a little bit of game there, right? Like he's not a jobber, he's not a chopper. He's got some offense to his game, like more than Tanev, like
for sure.
That's pretty clear. So I love that pairing. I think it's great. I've mentioned this to you a million times before, so this is tired, but you know, you grow up and you play in net and you get like really accustomed to like who's on the ice and how you feel about when they're on it. It's like the calming effect of when McCabe and Tanev are out there together. It's just like ultimate security blanket. It's like nothing bad's going to happen because these guys are out here. Like,
no, they're
-2 to start. Like, like something bad's going to happen. Can't get it clear.
I was just looking at the ice times at the end of the game. Was there a couple rotations without Rielly? Maybe not. It just felt like they put Oliver Ekman-Larsson out there with Carlo a couple times, but they sometimes get their pairs jumbled up. So maybe I noticed
a couple. Yeah, they put Pino with them a couple of times.
This to me is something that towards the end of the year here and into the playoffs you're going to watch, but I don't think they're going to play Rielly at the end of games, and I don't think they should. Like they should maybe start to consider diminishing his role a little bit. Like they've tried to get him involved. They've tried to get him involved. They've tried to like do the offensive thing and jump him up. And like, he just doesn't have the boots. Like on the first goal of the game for the Rangers, he has time and space to skate out. Old Rielly's getting on his horse there, and he just jams one up the board straight into traffic. No chance, no hope. Then he's stuck in mud in front of the net, almost screening his goalie. Like, we've talked a lot about Rielly this year, and we were trying to build him up when he really improved on that Western road trip and like before the Four Nations, but it's gotten back down the other way again here, bud. And like he to me, he should be in the 16-17 range coming to playoffs, especially with the way that they've filled out this decor. It wasn't pretty tonight for me with him. Wasn't pretty at all.
So the second one, it's like pucks on his stick, time and space.
Yeah, was the second one? My bad.
The second where he tries to flip it up, like just in the air, gets to the blue line, doesn't get it out, like not good weight.
Yeah.
And you and I have been hammering this point all year. Like Morgan Rielly's big defensive play is just throw it out. Yeah, icing. Throw it out. Get it down the ice. And it's like, again, nobody's Cale Makar, right? Like Cale Makar is Cale Makar. But you watch that Colorado game, and how many times it's like, this guy has crazy wheels and crazy handling, and he goes and he collects a puck, and you're thinking like, hey, it's going to be hard to go and catch him and to close the gap when he's got a little bit of area in front of him.
Yeah.
How many times we see that with Morgan Rielly? Like ever. Like where he collects a puck in the D zone and he's able to like wheel away from somebody and then just like pulls it out and starts to drive offense forward. Like it's so less frequent than it has been in years past. And we've talked about Morgan Rielly year over year being like one of the best athletes on the team, one of the better athletes in hockey. You look at like his metrics in the gym, his box jump, all this different stuff. It just hasn't been there for me this year, man. Like he's lost a step. This is not just like a confidence issue. He's always had bad gap control. That's been his thing forever. He's never been a cycle killer, but he's always been a guy who has elite wheels. And I'd actually like to see it, like the Sports Logic tracking numbers in terms of like the foot speed or the top end speed. I'm sure like the top end stuff maybe is still close, but average speed or whatever it is, it's just like, it isn't there, man. Like it's not. So I'm with you. Like, I don't want to see him on the ice at the end of games. No. Like I really don't.
No. And especially
because I'd way rather see Oliver Ekman-Larsson close with
and like, with Carlo or even Benoit with Carlo. Like it's just like I just at some point here it's not going to turn around, and like you have to stop kind of playing it like it's going to, where it's like, oh, he'll figure it out. He'll figure it out. Maybe he won't.
Yeah, that being said, I can't wait for playoffs where he's a stud and we just look like complete idiots. He's like
I'm happy. Listen, I'm happy to do it. I do it every year. Of course. I'm happy to do it. But like, I don't think it was nearly as good in the Bruins series last year as it was in the year before when they won. Like anyways, I don't love him on the end of games clearly. And they I don't think that they do either. So Carlo to me doesn't spend any time in his defensive zone. Like you're trying to watch him get hemmed in. And I guess he was on the ice for one of the goals tonight where he was trying to box out in front, kind of screen the goalie, but he's rarely on for anything bad. Like he's just zeros across the board every night. I'm just looking at his stat. This is the Carlo hat trick. Zeros with 3 blocks and 3 hits. That's
he's an
Carlo
expected
hat
goal
trick.
scorer king right now too. Like every night you look at the underlying numbers and it's like, they're
good fancies with him.
Always good fancies. Like I think he's had good fancies probably in every game, maybe outside of Colorado, because how could anybody not the second Colorado game? I mean, like the Colorado loss. I thought Stolarz was solid tonight. Didn't like the rebound control early. Thought he settled into the game, and then I thought he was just like vintage Stolarz, and just makes the goaltending like I don't know why people are like convinced who it's going to be right now. I really do think that this is a wide open battle.
Totally
I've said it before. This has been one of the best goalies in the entire NHL this season. To be like, it's Wool when he's put together a couple of extra wins, I think is crazy. I thought he did his job tonight in terms of like continuing to make this a thing and keeping it hard on the coaching staff.
Totally agree. And like it's March 20th. It's not April 20th. There's a full month before the playoffs start. And can we just say that it's fantastic where the Leafs are in terms of their goaltending situation? Because regardless of who you put in there, you got a great chance. And you wouldn't have been able to say that for many years or many teams in the NHL. Like how many teams in the NHL have these two guys? Like guys that are this good, both options. It's a pretty rare thing to have. And like if gun to their head who they would want to take it and run, I think it would probably be Wall because he's the guy they've given the longer term contract to. But Stolarz has been excellent all year. And, both Borny and Kipper on the show today were saying they're Wall guys. I'm fighting the Stolarz fight. Like I haven't seen enough from him over the stretch to be like, I'm done with it. Thought he was pretty good. Made some big saves tonight. The one I didn't like, the kick out onto the stick, the rebound, like you mentioned, but good night. Good win.
It was tough, but it was in the context of like, I thought he was struggling with rebounds earlier in the game before that goal. And so it like looked worse to me, even though that was one of the tougher ones to handle. But just, I didn't like his rebound control early in this game. I think that he was pretty pissed that they let in the third goal too. Like that they sort of went to sleep a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
Because you could tell that
Kreider's so good in front of the net with those tips. That was a beautiful tip.
Awesome tip. And by the way, we were rolling these highlights of Stolarz. The thing that I was going to put this in rapid fire, but it's like, man, Shesterkin, I mocked him, but that pass that he made tonight was
amazing,
outrageous.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That was Erik Karlsson stuff from a goaltender.
Yeah, it was an amazing pass. Yeah,
it really was.
Yeah,
I really do believe that out of everything, that was by far the play of the game.
For him, for the Rangers, that's for sure.
Well, I thought for both teams, I'm like, what was the most impressive thing tonight? I'm like, that's Shesterkin pass, no question. I rewound it like 3 times to watch it over and over again. It was brilliant. Anyway,
so next thing I wanted to bring up with you, Knies. He scores the goal tonight. Beautiful shot. Like
25 goals,
wide open. Like good Lord, good coverage in the middle of the ice, wide open, hammers it home, rips it. I got to tell you, like that stat they said in the broadcast is pretty eye-opening. The 25 goals and 115 hits. Him, Tkachuk, and Tom Wilson are the only 3 guys in the league. That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good.
That's very good.
That's good company. Like those are the 2 guys you would dream of him coming close to replicating. Like he's never going to be Brady Tkachuk, clearly. Like Brady Tkachuk is just a different animal. Tom Wilson's way, way tougher and scarier. But like if he can become a poor man's version of those 2 guys, you are so thrilled with his development. And he has been awesome this year. A couple down stretches throughout the year for sure. But in general, he's had a brilliant year. And, he's playing on the top line. He should be producing. But the 115 hit, 25 goal plateau. And like I said, those 2 other guys, that's really impressive.
So I was not aware of that stat. Obviously, like that's a great stat. Awesome pull by the stats team to rip that one out there. Somebody was sitting on it and waiting for him to score that goal, and they're like, tweet, because that one was going to get some interaction. Here's what I was never under the illusion of, though. And like you watch a lot of hockey, I watch a lot of hockey. There's not a lot of Matthew Knies out there, brother. Like
no, there's not. There's just not.
There are. I already deeply appreciate what this guy is. And like, he's not going to be Tkachuk and he's not going to be Wilson because he's not nasty like those dudes.
No,
like
he's not going to drop anything to fight anyone ever, but he doesn't have that in him.
he's not looking for that, right?
No.
Like, obviously he's not afraid, and that's why I love that moment where he just absolutely filled in the face against Vegas.
Oh, White Cloud. White Cloud, the guy who hit him up high earlier in the year.
Yeah. White Cloud hit him up high, and he took a number, and he waited all season for a spot. It's like, I think he could do it because he's a big old mutant with a like, man, you look at his neck. I don't think that you could land a lot of punches.
He's a college guy. He thinks he's a goal scorer. He's a college guy. He's not like, he wore a cage his whole career. Like, he's not gonna go out there and try to fight.
He's not a nasty. He doesn't have the mean streak of like wants to hurt somebody, but he wants to bang somebody up. He reminds me more like of a Gronkowski. Like, he's a big dumb American football player type, like that's what I think about it. Like the big old jock. The other guys to me are like hockey player, mean goon types. Like Brady Tkachuk was raised by a pro hockey player who was mean with a brother who's mean. Like
big old meanie family.
Yeah, big old mean family, the O'Doyles, basically. And like, Tom Wilson's a big burly Canadian guy who grew up playing like, GTHL, and just nasty player. Knies isn't going to be that, but I love him for what he is, which is like, he's the jock. He's the big, like, hunky jock who goes in the corners, isn't afraid, totally fearless, like, not afraid. A six sport reference, because we mentioned Grok, but it's like, he's your big tight end that's not afraid to go over the middle. And like, he can pass block, but he's not going to like take the 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty, ripping somebody's helmet off and getting
like Brady is.
Exactly. So it's like, he's an awesome player to have. I'm very curious. Again, I know people hate contract talk on the show, but I've seen some numbers float around now where it's like, 6.5. And I'm like, God, you'd be happy on that number. Like, he'll make you feel fine on that one.
Yeah, but does he have to be 8 years? Can we keep one guy hungry? Like, does like it have to be an 8-year contract for the big money? Like, I don't know. To me,
no, I think that the six is like going to be, because it's like, anyway, I think it'll be like a bit of a shorter term deal, but like we got some people saying like he's going to get 8x8, but I'm just saying that people I've talked to are.
Would you do 8x8?
That's a lot.
I would.
Here's the thing, man. Again, he's a unique player, but like, it's tough with the guys that play with Marner and Matthews, just because like year over year, they always dominate. It's like they've had Michael Bunting on their line. They've dominated. Like,
Hyman
the only guy that couldn't do it was poor old Nick Ritchie. He's the only guy on planet Earth that couldn't chase those guys, couldn't put up any numbers. I'm just saying, like, do I think he's like worth it? For sure. But do I wish we would have seen him like drive a line at one point? Like, and you should get paid if you're an awesome complimentary player. Not saying that you shouldn't, but just like,
eight's a lot.
Eight's too much. No, eight's crazy stuff. Like the one guy in the chat saying that's slav money. It's like, you can put the stats side by side, but like that guy was what in the
first
draft?
overall pick. His first overall pick.
I was going to say, it's like Matthew Knies still a second round pick. Like it's different strokes kind of things. Anyway, I think that's it from me.
I got one rapid fire thing. And I asked the guys to call this. We don't talk about the refs on this show, but I do have a reffing conversation that I'd like to have with you. If you could play the clip of the penalty that Knies got late in the third period, I guess halfway through the third period. Like, listen, this game was really sneaky physical, and guys were battling all night. And I thought it was an excellent standard. Like, there was no calls, and I like that. I like it's like, let the guys battle out there. If a stick falls out of a guy's hands, it shouldn't automatically be a penalty. Hold on to your stick. You're trying to dance around two guys. You got your stick out like this. He comes down on the stick. He's not in the hands. Like, hold on to your stick. This is not a penalty. I hate that. And it happens every night I watch hockey, where the guy's holding onto his stick flimsily with one hand, and you make contact with it and it falls out and it's automatically a call. It's a tight game with 10 minutes left, and you call that? I hate that call. And it's not even just like this one. It's like, hold on to your stick. Not a penalty.
One, listen, again, I don't talk about the refs, but I didn't love that call.
Hated it.
But I have a theory about it.
Let me have it.
I think the refs were bored. I think they were like,
we hadn't called anything.
I think that seventh cross-sport reference of the night.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes when you're watching a UFC fight and the guys get up against the cage and they're like doing grappling, and you hear the commentators and they're like, grappling is part of the sport. This is like a big moment for the fighter. But the crowd starts to boo and the ref starts to be like, do something, guys. And then they keep grappling. And he's like, all right. And he breaks him up.
Yeah.
And I felt like the ref was like, this third period is atrocious and it's boring and something's got to happen here. Oh, next thing that was even borderline, bang, that box.
Got to tell you right now, our king, Kelly Sutherland, would never have called that. He would never have called that. He would have dove in the way to stop the stick from making contact.
No, he would have picked up that Ranger stick and he would be like, pass it.
I'm open. I'm open.
Come on, Kniesy, I'm open. Yeah. Oh man.
I don't know. I hate that. And when a stick breaks, these flimsy $400 sticks that are just like made of nothing, they break so easy. Like if you hit on the stick and you hit the middle of the stick and it falls out or breaks, it should automatically be a penalty. Drives me crazy. So, anyways,
all right.
That's it.
Couple quick things. One, did an interview with Gary Roberts today. That was great, and I highly suggest people go listen to it, especially
his
for
answer about Tanev almost made me cry. So,
what?
His answer about Tanev almost made me cry. So,
man, so when you go to Gary Roberts' homepage for his training center, Tanev is the banner player that's on.
Oh my God, that's all you need to know. Lifetime contract.
Yeah. Like, so when I was doing my research, I'm like going through Robert's stuff, and I'm like, open up his website and bang. So obviously we talked Tanev, we talked Sid, we talked about Battle of Ontario, talked about the Draper scrum, the little fight. It's great. So again,
from the Winter Classic. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but he's like, I haven't been invited back to an alumni game. I was like, no, duh.
Yeah, listen. You get guys in those situations, it's like the old boys, the competitiveness comes out. It's like you can't help yourself. Loved it.
No, it's great. It's great hearing him talk about it because he's still got that, man. Like he's a killer. He's in his 50s, and he's still a killer. Anyway, so you can go subscribe to the JD Bunkis podcast. You can go listen to that interview there. I highly recommend it. It was really, honestly, every once in a while I get to do one where I'm like, damn, that was really fun to do. And like you finish it and you're like, yeah, you know what? This guy impacted my childhood.
Yes. This guy was extremely important to me. Triple overtime against the Sens. Bang. Like, yes.
I would say that in terms of free agents that left the Leafs, Cujo will always be one because like I told you, my friend told me in a grocery store and I went and cried in the car. I cried in the car when Cujo left. But Gary Roberts, when him and Nieuwendyk went to Florida, like that was number two of just like that was an all-time what the hell are the Leafs doing moment, like not just giving both those guys the money.
Yeah, I hated that too. Hated them in those jerseys.
Oh, it was a nightmare.
Yeah,
it was.
That was just like that was the pipeline. All the boys who were sick of Toronto are like, I'm going to Florida. It was a pipeline for a little while there.
No, but you remember what it was? It was like they both wanted the same deal, and the Leafs were like, "We'll give it to Roberts," and then he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to Florida. Like, give it to Nieuwendyk," and they were like, "No," and then both guys were still good. And
I remember very well. I remember.
Yeah, this is the organization that when Gretzky wanted to play here, they were like, "For how much?" Like, just so embarrassing.
What was the other thing? You said you had a couple things. What was the other thing?
Oh no, I was just plugging that. I was saying like, subscribe to this podcast, do the same things. If you're a YouTube watcher, we ask you hit thumbs up, but we also ask that you subscribe to this podcast on wherever you get your platforms. Even if you watch it religiously on here, it really does help out the boys. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis, at Sam McKee. I'm off my podcast tomorrow. You got anything to plug for Real Cupper and Board?
Off the rail Fridays as usual, Doug McLean, and we do our Leafs line. So if you're watching this, I can actually tell you the number. 416-413-4141. Call in, and if your take's any good, I'll put you on air. So and I've been catching some heat from people that are calling. It's like, oh, if you're not from Ontario, you put them on, and I'm like, that's true. Like if it's like guys like I'm from Japan, he could have like the worst take ever, and I'm like, you're in. Like you called in from Japan, you're in.
I'd be roasting you too. That sucks. Put the Ontario lads on. What are you doing?
I put Ontario guys in clearly, but like, if somebody calls in, I put them in.
I don't care. Here's what I gotta say. Patriotism's back. Canada first. Canada first, buddy. Canada first. Elbows up. Canada first. All right. That's the show. We'll see Tuesday?
Saturday against the Preds.
I don't even know what day it is, man.
Saturday against the Preds. The Preds. Who scheduled that? Great for bachelor parties. March Preds in Nashville. It's a great bachelor party night. Horrible night for us to watch a hockey game.
Sucks too.
Right.
I had if Luke Shen wouldn't have gotten. I was like working things out, and they were like, "Oh, we're playing Toronto," and I didn't even think about the deadline. They were like, "Yeah, all right, we worked this out. He'll come on the show." I was like, "Yeah, great." And then it was like, "Oh, right, he's traded. This is done." And you can't get anybody from the Pens. Like, you know what happens when you email the Pens when you're from Toronto?
He's on the Jets now.
Yeah, where'd he go? Yeah, Jets. But I was like, yeah, I forgot they scooped it, but I was like, I was like, damn it. Dubas strikes again.
I wouldn't say the old Pens PR Toronto radio pipipeline is a big
No, it's not. They're not cooking anything up for the fellas.
No, not a lot of unreplied emails in those inboxes.
Haven't even gotten a sniff. Anyways, we'll see you Saturday night against the Preds. This will be a low event game. We'll see you then.